Hello everyone, welcome to Kumari's Kids channel. Today's story is going to be about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Let's get started. Once upon a time there lived a lovely little princess named Snow White who lived with her stepmother, a beautiful but vain queen. The queen didn't want anyone to be more beautiful than her. The queen didn't want anyone to be more beautiful than she was, and so she dressed Snow White in rags and made her cook, scrub, and fetch water from the well, as though she were a servant. Each day the queen asked the mirror, "Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" And each day the mirror replied, "You are the fairest one of all." But one day the mirror said, "But ho, a lovely maid I see, alas, she is more fair than thee." "Alas, oh, for her!" cried the angry queen. "Reveal her name. Lips red as rose, hair black as ebony, skin white as snow white," gasped the queen. Meanwhile, Snow White was in the courtyard scrubbing the steps. As she leaned over the well to get more water, she sang to the Dwarfs nearby. She told them that the well was a special wishing well. Then Snow White peered down the well and made a wish to find her true love. Suddenly she saw the reflection of a young man. She looked up and saw a handsome prince. "Oh!" she cried and ran inside the castle. There the prince had heard the singing and discovered Snow White. He had been searching for one girl he could love, and he had found her. "Did I frighten you?" called the young man. "Wait, please, don't run away," he began to sing to her. Snow White crept out on a little balcony to listen, with her heart beating very fast. Her dream had come true. She kissed a dove, which flew down to give her kiss to the stranger. Snow White didn't know that Queen had been watching. When the queen saw the young man and heard his words of love for Snow White, she was enraged. She decided to get rid of Snow White once and for all. The queen called for the huntsman. Take her far into the forest, where she can pick wild flowers," she ordered. "Yes, your majesty," he replied, "and there you will kill her." "But, your majesty, the little princess," he protested. To make doubly sure you do not fail, bring her heart in this stormed queen, handing him a small box. The frightened huntsman took Snow White into the forest, but when the terrible moment came, he could not bear to kill her. Forgive me, cried the huntsman, kneeling before the frightened girl. Run away, run away. Hide, he told the princess that the queen was mad with jealousy and wanted her dead. Never come back, he added. The terrified Snow White ran deep into the forest, hugged trees steamed to the stretch out to grab her glowing eyes glad at her from the dark undergrowth. At last she threw herself on the ground and sobbed bitterly. Eventually, Snow White's sobs died away. She looked up to find herself surrounded by squirrels, rabbits, deer, birds, and other forest animals. But when she sat up, they scurried away. Then she asked for their help. Maybe you know where I can stay, she said to them. The birds tweeted to show they did, and soon all the forest folk led her to a tiny house in a clearing. It's just like a doll's house, said Snow White. She peered around the inside. 7 little chairs must be 7 little children. 7 untidy little children, Snow White thought. That if she cleaned the house for them, they may let her stay. Now the little house belonged to the 7 dwarfs, who worked in a nearby diamond mine. Every morning they set off for the mine. They worked all day in deep tunnels, hacking precious stones out of the earth with their pickaxes. The 7 dwarfs worked hard, but they were a very happy bunch. Each evening, as the sun was setting, the 7 dwarfs stopped work. They locked the new diamonds away and walked home. They loved to whistle and sing during their journey. Dog led the way, holding his lantern. Followed by Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, Sneezy, Bashful, and Droopy. Meanwhile, the birds and animals helped Snow White tidy the little house. They swept away the dust and cobwebs, scrubbed the dirty clothes, and washed the dishes. Snow White made a delicious pot of soup. At last, tired out, she went upstairs to the bedroom. There were 7 little beds, each with a name: Dog, Happy, Sneezy, Droopy, Grumpy, Bashful, and Sleepy. What funny names for the children, said the Snow White. I'm a little sleepy myself. And she fell asleep lying on the bed, on the little beds. As the 7 dwarfs reached their house, they saw the windows all lit up. Mark my words, there's a trouble brewing, said Grumpy. They stuck their heads through the door, then tiptoed inside. Look, said Doc. The floor, it's been swept. Our cobwebs are missing, said Bashful. My cup's been washed. Sink's empty. Something's cooking smells good. Don't touch it, you fools, shouted Grumpy. Doc looked up the stairs. It's up there, he said. The 7 dwarfs were very nervous as they climbed the stairs, holding on to one another in fear. They tiptoed into the room just as Snow White yawned and stretched her arms under the sheet. Doc snatched off the sheet, but no monster lay there. Why, it's a girl, cried Doc. Snow White woke up with a start. She realized these were no children. Oh, why, you little man, how do you do? She began to name them. Doc, Bashful, Sleepy, Sneezy, Happy, Dopey, and Grumpy. We know who we are. Ask her who she is, said Grumpy. Who are you, my dear? Asked Doc. I'm Snow White. The 7 dwarfs gasped. Snow White, the princess? Please, don't send me away, begged Snow White. She told them that the queen would kill her if she went home. I'll keep house for you. I'll wash and sew and sweep and cook. Cook? Asked the little man. When they found out she could make gooseberry pie, they cheered. Hooray! Shouted the 7 dwarfs. She stays. Delighted Snow White ran downstairs to stir the soup. Soon she called supper. Meanwhile, the evil queen hurried to her magic mirror. Magic mirror on the wall. Who now is the fairest of all? The mirror replied, over the 7 jewel hills, beyond the 7 falls, in the cottage of the 7 dwarfs dwells Snow White, fairest one of all. The queen told the spirit of the magic mirror that Snow White was dead. She held out the box as proof. Snow White still lives, the mirror replied. 'Tis the heart of a pig you hold in your hand. The queen rushed down to her dungeon. She would find Snow White herself. She mixed a magic potion to change herself into an ugly old woman. She began the magic spell. She cried and drank it. The queen's voice turned to a cackle. Her hair became white. Her elegant hands shrank to claws, and her face became wrinkled and ratty. Ha ha, she screeched, a perfect disguise. She hobbled over her book of the magic spells to choose a curse. Ha, a poison apple sleeping dead, she cackled. But wait, There may be an antidote. Nothing must be overlooked. Ha! Here it is, she cried. The victim of sleeping death can only be revived by love's first kiss. Love's first kiss? Bah, no fear of that. The old crone dipped an apple into the poison brew. She pulled out the gleaming red fruit and tucked it into a basket. In the cottage, Snow White and the seven dwarfs were having a celebration. Happy sang a song while the other dwarfs played all sorts of instruments. Duppy stood on Sneezy's shoulders, so he could be tall. He could be tall enough to dance with Snow White. All was going well until Sneezy felt his nose start to twitch. Achoo! The next morning, the seven dwarfs left for work. Now, don't forget, my dear old queen, sly one. They said, so beware of strangers. I'll be all right, said Snow White cheerfully, and she kissed Duppy and all the others on the head as they left. The wicked queen hurried through the forest and stopped when she reached the edge of the clearing. She could hear Snow White's lovely voice as she sang inside the cottage while she worked. Ha, said the queen, the little one will be away and she'll be alone. The queen went up to the cottage window and saw Snow White working in the kitchen making pie. Croaked the old woman, like to try my apples? And she held out the poisoned apple. Snow White was surprised and a little afraid. The birds realized the danger and flew at the old woman, trying to drive her away. Shh! Shoo! Cried Snow White, rushing out of the house. What do you mean by attacking a poor old lady? She led the old woman inside and made her sit down. The birds and animals watched in horror. We must warn the dwarfs in the mine. They crept and chatted to each other. Off they went, flying and running as fast as they could. The witch held up the shiny red fruit. I'll share a secret with you, she said. It's a magic wishing apple. A wishing apple? One bite and all your dreams will come true. Now make a wish and take a bite. Snow White took the apple, closed her eye, wished that her prince would find her, and took a big bite. By this time, the animals had reached the mine. They peeked and pushed at the seven dwarfs. But the little man couldn't understand what was wrong. At last, Sleepy said, maybe the old queen's got Snow White. Oh, I feel strange, gasped Snow White. But at the cottage, the wicked queen watched eagerly Snow White on deep breath, then fell to the floor. The poison apple rolled away. Ha, 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 croaked the old woman. Her breath will still, her blood congeal. Now I'll be the fairest in the land. The seven dwarfs arrived at the clearing just as the witch disappeared into the forest. The seven dwarfs dashed after the queen. Lightning flashed and rain poured. The queen began to climb a rocky mountain. There she goes, after her, cried Grumpy. The queen scrambled higher and higher. At last she reached the edge. It reached the edge of a cliff and could go no further. I'll crush your bones, she shrieked. Grabbing a dead branch, she tried to push a huge boulder down on the seven dwarfs. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning hit the edge. It broke off and fell down into the valley below, taking the queen to her death. The seven dwarfs returned to the cottage to find Snow White lying on the floor, seemingly dead. She looked so beautiful that they didn't have the heart to bury her. Instead, they built a golden coffin and placed it in the woods. Each day they brought flowers and the forest creatures visited her. In time, people heard the beautiful maiden lying in the woods. The prince also heard about the maiden. He decided to take a look for himself. As soon as the prince reached the coffin in the clearing, he knew she was lovely girl of the wishing well. Heartbroken, he bent over and kissed Snow White, then bowed his head in silence. Suddenly, Snow White's eyelids fluttered open. She yawned, sat up, and was amazed to find herself looking into the eyes of her beloved prince. She joyfully gathered her in his arms. The seven dwarfs danced up and down, and all the little forest animals crept and chatted with delight. Snow White kissed each of the seven dwarfs goodbye. The prince lifted her onto his white horse and led the way to his castle. There they were married, and of course they lived happily ever after. Okay, this is the end of Snow White's story.